Let's go a little further back in time. 287 AD. In this land, two men stood face to face. One was a king. The other was a man who held his faith above everything. That day, King Tiridates ordered, "Place flowers before Anahit," and everyone obeyed, except Gregory. And he said, "No." Think about it. In front of everyone, he said no to the king. Gregory's hands did not tremble for a moment, because he bowed to another king. The real blow came in that moment. Tiridates remembered Gregory. Gregory's father had brought about his father's end. And now Gregory stood before the king with his faith. Kor Virap, the deep dungeon, a pit 6 meters down, no light, even air barely enters. Whoever was thrown in there never came out, and the lid closed. Stone above him, earth below, darkness all around. Tiridates thought, "This man will disappear here. No one will remember him." But he was wrong. 13 years. Every day, a woman came. We do not know her name. We only know this. Each day, she brought bread, and Gregory lived. God kept him alive with that bread. What did he do there? What did he do for 13 years? He prayed. Every day, every hour. He did not lose his mind or his faith, because true freedom cannot be locked behind doors. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Romans dues. And 13 years later, Tiridates began to fall apart. But this was no ordinary illness. His mind was gone, and so was his peace. He left the palace and wandered the plains. No one could help him. One night, Khosrow-Dukt had a dream. There was only one message. Gregory was still alive, and only he could heal her brother. 13 years had passed. Everyone thought he was long gone. They opened the lid. Inside was darkness. They called out, and a voice answered from below. After 13 years, weak, half-starved, but alive, Gregory came up. And the first thing he did was pray. Gregory asked for nothing. No apology, no revenge. He raised his hands and prayed. The palace fell silent. Everyone held their breath, and in that moment, Tiridates was healed. Then came a long silence. The king stood, looked at Gregory, and fell to his knees. The most powerful man in Armenia knelt before the man he had imprisoned, and he said, "Your God is my God too. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Matthew 5:44. 301 AD, Gregory baptized Tiridates, and that morning, Armenia became the first Christian nation in history. 79 years earlier, a prison, a piece of bread, a prayer. And this is how the first Christian nation was born. That night, Gregory dreamed. Christ came down, struck the ground, and light rose. When Gregory woke, he knew a church would be built there. That place is Echmiadzin today, the descent of the only begotten. And that cathedral has stood for 1,700 years. Gregory traveled across Armenia. Temples closed, and churches rose, but not by force. The people had seen it. It was not the idol that healed Tiridates, but Gregory's God. Gregory built schools. The children were now learning something new, faith. But one thing was missing. There was still no alphabet to write Armenian, and that was another story. Nuns fleeing Rome came to Armenia. Hripsime was one of them. The king summoned her, but she refused. And that refusal changed everything. Gregory built churches in memory of those nuns, and those churches still stand today. Centuries have passed, but that faith did not fade. Because their foundation was not just stone, but the faith of those women. Armenia did not keep that faith to itself. Gregory sent messengers to Georgia and the Caucasus, and that faith crossed borders. What began in a dungeon spread through a region. 325 AD, Nicaea was gathered, and Armenia was there. Aristarchus sat at the same table with the bishops of the world. The story that began in a dungeon had now entered the world stage. Gregory left everything behind. He withdrew to a mountain. He was alone, but with God. There he closed his eyes. But the faith he left behind did not fade. But the story of these lands began long before Gregory. To understand what happened here, we need to go a little further back. Once, Urartu stood here. They built walls of stone, no mortar. They locked the stones together. Earthquakes past the walls remained. Look at these stones. Each one is different, yet they fit perfectly. How did they do this in 500 BC? We still do not fully know. Urartu created its own script, and it is still read today, because what is carved in stone does not fade. And water, the secret of every civilization. Urartu brought water from the mountains to the city, 50 kilometers, in 500 BC, only mind and labor. Today, those walls still stand, even after 2,500 years. And those stones say this: these lands were always strong. Then that strength became faith. 405 AD, Mesrop Mashtots created the alphabet, and the gospel began to speak Armenian. That day, everything changed. The children could now read in their own language. Faith had come into their tongue. The Armenian alphabet has 38 letters today, in use since 405 AD without major change. One of the oldest alphabets still in use. Everything returns here, to this room, to these stone walls. There was no light, no warmth. Hope was weak, but faith was there, and that faith was enough. Maybe you're in a prison too. No way out, no light. Gregory was too. 13 years. But that prison was not the end. It was preparation. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Romans 5-3. From 301 AD to today, empires fell, but the Armenian church remained, because it was born in a dungeon. And today, the same prayer rises in that cathedral, the same language, the same faith. For 1,700 years, we return to today, the same land, the same mountain, and the faith that came out of that dungeon is still here. Every year, thousands come. Some are tourists, some to touch the faith, and some go down through that door. When you touch those walls, you feel something: cold stone, darkness, and one question: what did Gregory find here? Maybe the answer is simple. Gregory did not lose God there. He found him. Because when everything is taken, faith remains, and that faith is stronger than walls. There are more stories where the Bible meets history. Subscribe and don't miss the next journey.